Good afternoon. My name is Jason Webster. I'm lead commercial agronomist for Precision Planting, and I manage the PTI farm. Have we had a great day at Winter Conference today, or what? Yeah, thank you guys for being a part of Winter Conference. We're humbled that you've been able to be here with us today. And by the way, congratulations, you've made it to the final session of Winter Conference. Over the next few minutes, my job at hand is kind of to finish the day out, and we're going to give a status update on the PTI farm, our Precision Technology Institute. We're going to give a little brief synopsis of what the farm is in case you guys don't know what it is, and then we're going to dive into some lessons that we learned from the 2022 crop. So let's dive right in here. The PTI farm, the Precision Technology Institute. It is a 400-acre research farm that Precision Planting owns in Pontiac, Illinois. Pontiac, Illinois. We're right along Interstate 55 and Route 116. And on this farm, annually we have 140 to 160 agronomy trials that we're working on. And when the calendar flips over to July to August and September, we open our doors. We open our doors to growers from all across the country and all across the world. This past year, we had farmers coming from 30 states across the United States, and we also had farmers internationally. We had 6 international countries represented this summer at the PTI farm. And when folks come to our farm, we just have an open conversation. It's an ag forum. We're talking about problems that we have on our farms, in our fields, and we talk about what are the possible solutions. Okay, so we have a lot of fun at the PTI farm. We're not just a one field day and done. We have 100 growers come to our farm every single day, 100. We're out at the farm Monday through Friday. 100 growers come to our farm. We take them onto the field, show them what we're working on, and then we just have a conversation. So it's an ag forum. From day one, this is actually our 5th year. It was our 5th year at the PTI farm, and from day one, when we got this PTI farm going, we said we are going to challenge the status quo. What does that mean? Challenge the status quo. Well, here's what it means in my mind. If we're going to continue doing the same old things over and over again every single crop season, well, guess what? We're going to get the same old results. And if you're not happy with the results that you're getting, we have a problem. So what is this challenge the status quo? We're going to take the best management practices that you're using on your farm, the things that you have felt comfortable doing. You've got the equipment set up on your farm to do those practices, but the question is, are they the best thing that you could be doing on your farm? How do you test that on your farm? It takes time, it takes money, it takes people, and we know that's difficult. So that's what we're doing at the PTI farm, to find those things that can increase yield, but more importantly, you'll hear me say this a few times today, it's all about sustainability. How do we make more money on the farm? How do we keep the farm sustainable so it's around for the next generation? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be more efficient, and we're trying to be sustainable. Let's go to the PTI farm. We're going to do it via Google Earth. Again, we're in Pontiac. It's about 60-some miles away from here. Actually, from Chicago's O'Hare Airport, we're about 85 miles straight south. The last IDOT survey that was done, I think 25,000 trucks go down the interstate every single day. We've got great visibility, easy access to get to the farm. And when people come to the farm, we just say, hey, here's the agronomy trials that we're working on. Here's the data we've collected thus far over the 5 years we've been at the farm. And then what do you guys think? We are very open door policy. When you guys come to the farm, and by the way, on behalf of the whole Precision Planting team, you have a personal invitation to come to the farm. We'd love to see you there this summer. In the past, when folks have come, we've kind of split them up into different sessions, and one of the most powerful sessions, I think, at the farm has been involving planting fundamentals. And I kind of watch this from time to time every day at the farm, and I see our regional sales managers hosting this session out in the field, and this is a hands-on demonstration. That's one of the reasons we can only have 100 people a day at the PTI farm, because these are hands-on demonstration. It's boots on the ground, hands getting dirty. In this session, we put a planter in the ground, and we make a furrow. At some of the sessions today, you guys have heard about creating that perfect furrow. We try to do that in planting fundamentals, but first, when we put the planter down, we do it wrong. Why in the world do we do it wrong? Well, we want you folks to look at that incorrect furrow. You're on your hands and knees, you got your knife, you got your seed finder, you're digging at those seed walls at the bottom of that furrow. What did we do wrong to this thing? We're doing this so when it happens in your fields and home, and trust me, it will, you'll be able to do 2 things. 1, identify the problem, and secondly, know what to do to fix it. That's what we're working on in this session every day. See, growers come from all over the world, and every farmer's different. Their soils are different, their farms are different, and every day is a different conversation, but it still comes down to some of the same agronomy. It doesn't matter how many rows you have on your planter. It doesn't matter what color planter it is. We're all trying to make that perfect furrow, and that's what that session is involved with. One of the other neat things about the farm is I think it makes us pretty unique. We have a ride and drive sandbox area. We're going to show you when you come to the farm everything we're using equipment-wise, technology-wise to plant the agronomy trials. Everything we're using during the growing season, and then this is a great part, I love this. We're going to give you the keys to equipment. We're going to give you keys to tractors and planters and say, you go plant corn. Yep, it's July, it's August, it's September, and we're out planting corn. Tractors and planters running every day. We're going to go back to the PTI farm again. I'm going to show you a little video here. As growers have come to the PTI farm in the past, this is what it looks like when we're riding and driving in the sandbox. Dude, that's awesome. Did you hear that statement at the end? He says, that's awesome. And that's the experience we see every single day, and that's the experience we want you folks to have when you come visit us at the PTI farm. We will take you on an agronomy tour at the farm too. This is what our team at the farm really likes, taking you out to some of the 140 to 160 trials we're working on every single year, showing you what we've learned and what we are learning, and again, having that ag forum out in the middle of the field. We do have some new construction, so when you folks come to the farm, you know, it seems like we just got our construction done of the PTI farm in the first place, and now we're building again. We're almost done with our second phase, which involves a grain storage and drying facility. I wanted to bring the agronomics into this. I wanted to look at the economics of it too, of storing my own grain at the PTI farm, drying it compared to taking it to town. We've got a brand new dryer. It's a quiet dryer on the farm. I'll show you pictures here in a minute, but I want to bring the agronomics of it, try to figure out when is the best time to harvest corn, what moisture is the best, and if I don't harvest it at that perfect moisture, what is it going to cost me? Those are the things I want to find out every single year. I'll show you some pictures. Here's our original 3D animation of the facility that we wanted to build. And not the biggest system in the world, but we want to show you how this works. We want to show you the state-of-the-art equipment of how we're moving grain, how we're drying grain, and how we're going to sense it. This was one interesting thing to me. We're precision planting. You got that planter out in your field with precision planting equipment on it, and you're sensing, aren't you? We learned about that today. We're going to do the same thing with this type of technology. Once we put our grain in it, we're going to be able to sense it. Here's a couple shots taken just a few days ago. You can see the crane on the property. We're just about done with it. There's that tower to move our grain around. And there's a shot from the interstate. If you drive by on your way home, you'll be able to see this system. So if you come out to the farm this summer, you'll be able to see this system and how it works. Okay, enough about what the PTI farm is. Let's get into this and talk about what we learned. What kind of data did we learn from the 2022 crop? The first study I want to talk about is our phosphorus efficiency trial. And this is where we evaluate yield and economics of phosphorus placement efficiency when 10-30-4-0 fertilizer is applied in furrow and out of the furrow. I'll show you how we're doing this here in a second. Here you see up on the slide, you see an in-furrow application with the orange bars. It's on the left side of the screen there. A tri-band application, those orange bands, that's coming from FurrowJet. Okay, I'll show you the quick touch unit here in a second, but I want you to focus on phosphorus being placed near the seed, near the seminal root system of a corn plant versus taking that phosphorus out of the furrow and putting it in these blue streams of fertilizer you see on the right. That's from our Conceal. So basically, the nuts and bolts of this study is, what's the difference of putting a phosphorus fertilizer in the furrow in the spring at planting time versus out of the furrow? Is there any differences with this? FurrowJet is how we're doing our in-furrow, okay? Just a quick touch unit, very easy. And we're surrounding that seed. So we're placing that phosphorus on the seed, in between the seed, and then in bands on both sides. Okay? Sometimes we call this the 5-point touch, but we're going to focus on these orange points of application right here in the middle for our in-furrow applications. The blue line will be conceal. There's the conceal unit. We're going to the gauge wheel of the planter. We're going to cut that, kind of the middle of the gauge wheel out, and inside that resides a knife that will apply phosphorus fertilizer 3 inches over where that seed's at in the furrow. Okay, so we're comparing right on the seed, in between the seed, to 3 inches outside of the trench. Here's conceal. Show you that gauge wheel and that knife applying. We are in a dual band fashion in this particular study. We'll turn this unit around so you can see the rear end of this thing. See where the Keaton seed firmer is pushing that seed, giving us good seed to soil contact, and we're 3 inches over from where we're placing that seed. Okay, so that's the differences in how we're placing this phosphorus. By the way, I always get the question, why are you guys testing 1034O in this phosphorus study? Well, simply it's the most widely known starter fertilizer around the world. Everybody knows it, everybody's got access to it, and that's why we're using it in this particular study. Okay, so let's go to some yield data. Now, the blue bar you'll see on the graph is our control, where no starter fertilizer is applied whatsoever. Go to the middle bar, the gray bar. That's where we're putting 1034O, 10 gallon per acre, which is a very common rate of 1034O. The gray bar is conceal. That's dual band conceal in the gray bar. Did we get a yield increase from the 10 gallon of 1034O through conceal? Yes, we did. 5.1 bushel increase. However, when we transition that phosphorus in furrow next to the seed in that seminal root system, yield goes up to 12.3 bushel per acre. The easiest way I can explain this is in dollars and cents. Conceal made me money, made me about $6.10, but look what happens. I get an 8x return. How's that for an investment? An 8x return when we position that phosphorus in the furrow. Okay, that's a $49.30 return on investment. That's a number pretty close to what we talk about every single day at the PTI farm. We ask growers, what can you do on your farm to make an extra $50 an acre? What can you do? We're doing it here. We're close enough at $49.30. And all we're doing is repositioning our phosphorus. Now, why are we wanting to do this? Okay, we know, a lot of you farmers know that once you put phosphorus into the soil, it doesn't move. It's not like nitrogen where it'll move throughout the soil profile. It doesn't do it. It's going to stay right there. So I keep thinking to myself, we have to put this nutrition, this food, near the mouth of a corn plant. If we get it too far away, and we might not have access to it. Now, is this a one-time thing? I just showed you 2022 data. We've actually done this the past 3 years. Not only 2022, but 2021 and 2020. And do you know that FurrowJet, the in-furrow applications of phosphorus, has never been beat? It's beat conceal every single time to the tune of 5.2 bushel, and that's a $27 win rate. So again, why is this happening? How come I have to move phosphorus closer to the seed and seminal root system? Why is it doing better in that particular application? This, I always say a picture says 1,000 words, and this one does. Look at those the orange circles on that screen. This is where we're applying phosphorus and FurrowJet. Again, putting it next to the seed in that seminal root system. That's what's going to take in that phosphorus. And here's the thing. Placement matters because when you guys are running your corn planters, applying that starter fertilizer, sometimes it's cold and sometimes you have wet soils. And that's a real problem trying to get phosphorus into a corn plant. You've already got a corn plant that's growing slow because of the cold, wet conditions, and you got a phosphorus product that won't move anywhere. You got to get the root to the phosphorus, and that's your protection in those cold, wet environments. You've got to get that working for you, so you got to move that phosphorus a little bit closer. Look at the blue circles. That's the conceal. That's that phosphorus placement too far outside. That's not putting the nutrition at the mouth of a corn plant. It's close, but not close enough. So I was putting this presentation together, and I said, how can I illustrate this a little bit to the folks at Winter Conference? And it dawned on me. I said, one day at the PTI farm, we're having lunch with one of the guys I work with. His name is Mark. He's here in the back row, in the very back of the exhibit hall. And I was telling Mark about how unhappy I was with some fertilizer attachments on how they were applying starter fertilizer. I said, you know, I've been testing starter fertilizer, phosphorus-type starter fertilizers for a long time, almost 15 years. And at one point I said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. It's not working for me. I'm not getting any yield out of it. Yes, the corn looks a little better. Yes, it might be a little drier at harvest time. but it's not making me any money. And I started looking at it. I said, where are we putting the nutrition? And it wasn't in the mouth of a corn plant. It was some of these 2x2 starter fertilizer placements. It was too far away, not putting it in the mouth of a corn plant. And so I'm going to take you back to a conversation I had with Mark. It actually was an inside PTI session back in season 1. I'll talk more about inside PTI here in a minute. But I want to show you this conversation about starter fertilizer. I hope you enjoy it. We've caught Mark here eating lunch today. Mark, what are you having for lunch here?
Chicken sandwich.
Chicken sandwich, pretty good?
Very good.
Very good, okay. So I was just telling the guys about starter fertilizer and how, I think in the past we were putting starter fertilizer in the wrong spot. We weren't really putting it near the mouth of a corn plant to properly feed it. Now I noticed that you're putting your chicken sandwich in your mouth.
Right.
Is that typically how you eat a sandwich?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, it looks like you're getting probably some good nutrition by going this way. Is there another way to get nutrition, or does everything come through your mouth?
Comes through my mouth.
Everything comes through your mouth. Now I want to try something here. Remember how I told you guys years ago I wasn't getting very good response from my starter fertilizer? Some of it was the old 2x2, burying it 4 inches deep, the root system. Could never access it. I wasn't putting it near the mouth of a corn plant. I kind of want to rearrange Mark's lunch here. Mark, would you bear with me for a minute and let me have your sandwich?
Yes.
Okay. So Mark, we're going to take this sandwich, and instead of feeding it through your mouth, we're going to try feeding it through your ear, okay? To kind of simulate how we've been doing starter fertilizer in the past. The wrong way. So Mark, okay, we're going to try a new nutrition way here, okay? Ready?
Yep.
Now, can you taste it?
I cannot taste it. It smells a little weird.
You can smell it, but you can't taste it.
Nope. Feels
Okay?
funny.
It feels funny. Now just turn around a little bit. See what we got here, guys? We've got food, nutrition, that's not in Mark's mouth. And that's how I feel we've been, kind of what we've been doing with starter fertilizer. Mark, I'll have you take your sandwich.
Thanks.
Okay, now take another bite. Now, does that taste better? Well, first of all, can you taste it?
Yeah.
You can. Tastes pretty good. A lot different than through your ear. So probably a bad analogy, but hopefully you guys can understand kind of the way we've been maybe putting starter fertilizer on in the wrong spot where the corn plant can't reach it. We've got to put it near the mouth. We had a lot of fun doing that video. Well, maybe I should rephrase it. I had a lot of fun doing that video. I'm not so sure about Mark. But, but the point, or the moral of the story is, we've got some planter attachments that can do a really nice job of placing nutrition, but you've got to find that nutrition product and figure out where is the perfect placement, and then we can put it there. Phosphorus is one that generally works for us in furrow. It really does. When we take it too far away, it's not putting that nutrition at the mouth of the plant, okay? All right, let's change gears. Let's get into another trial. We're going to stay on this fertility thing, nutrition, and we're going to talk about nitrogen. It seems like whenever we talk about high-yielding corn, we always talk about nitrogen management. Today we're going to talk about nitrogen placement. In this particular study I'm going to describe, it evaluates and compares yield and economic impact of at-plant applications of liquid 32% UAN nitrogen, and we're going to place them in 4 different planter attachments, 4 different planter attachments. All right, now, I will be completely honest with you. For the past 5 years at PTI, and even a year before then, when Conceal first came out, we've been using Conceal as a nitrogen application tool, and it's worked great. It really has. And as we've gotten through the years, growers have asked me, are you applying nitrogen on the planter any different way than just Conceal? And I said, nope, I'm really not doing it. This works really well for us, and we just tell the agronomic story and let folks make the mind up for themselves. But every single year, guys have been asking, let's look at it compared to some other units, and I gave in and I said, all right, let's compare it to some other tools that we can put nitrogen on the planter. And let me tell you, nitrogen on the planter has been a really easy way for us to increase yield and increase profit at the PTI farm. I know some folks, it can be a little painful putting liquid, especially high volume product like nitrogen on a planter, but it has worked really well for us, and we're going to continue to do it. But now we just got to figure out what is the best way to do it. There's the Conceal. We already talked about it as maybe not being the perfect phosphorus placement tool for me, but for nitrogen, it works really well. It also works good for sulfur, for boron and potassium, those units I can't put in the furrow. I can put them right here. Today, though, we're just going to concentrate on nitrogen, okay? I'm going to show you videos of all the planter attachments that we're testing in this protocol. Here's Conceal. I'm going to show you, this could be a slow-mo video, but I want to describe it first. There you see the gauge wheels of that planter. Inside that gauge wheel, that slit in the gauge wheel, you'll see that knife sitting in there, and that knife is going to apply nitrogen about 1.5 inches deep. And the gauge wheels then, as it rolls through, as you're planting, it's going to collapse the trench. It's going to push soil down in that trench that the knife made where it applied the nitrogen, and it's going to protect the nitrogen. It's going to seal it. It's going to get it into moisture. You heard about volatilization loss from the sessions today. That was Doug and Aaron's session, okay? We're not going to have any volatilization issues here because we're covering it with soil. All right, so let's get the video going. Okay, there's that slow-mo. You can see the knife in there. Again, this is not a deep application, only about 1.5 inches deep. And look how those gauge wheels, it'll collapse that soil right in that trench, and we are protected. We are nice and sealed up. That's what we're comparing to these other tools. Now, I thought, what are we going to test? Everybody that said, well, test some other products, they didn't give any recommendations on what they wanted me to test. So I said, well, what's one of the ones that we've used for a long, long time? And a lot of folks will call this a 2x2 attachment. This is a John Deere single disc 2x2. This thing is a lot of steel. It's going to hang in front of the planter row unit. And if you're planting corn 2 inches deep, this thing is going to apply nitrogen 2 inches over from the seed, 2 inches lower, so it's going to be at a 4-inch depth. That's how I look at this thing. Let's get this thing going on video here. There it goes. Again, a slow-mo. You see that knife. We're getting it in the ground, okay? This is not surface applied. This is soil applied. We're going to get this thing protected, but it's just going to be a little bit further away. All right, now we're going to go extreme, opposite. There's some folks that say, you know what? I don't want to spend a lot of money putting this stuff on a planter. I'm just going to dribble it. I'm just going to surface apply this thing. This is going to be a dual band dribble, so we've got dual band in every single application that we're looking at here on the planter. We'll get the video going on this guy right here. There we go. Look at this. So I got dual streams. You guys have seen this before, right? We're just dribbling this 32 right on top of the ground. What's the risk with this? This is the volatilization that we talked about. Yeah, and you guys have seen this before. Look at that nitrogen laying right on top of the ground. You give me a little wind and a little bit of heat, this nitrogen is going to convert to ammonia, and it turns into a gaseous form. Well, she'll float right up, and we're not going to be able to utilize that nitrogen by the corn plant. Okay, so I look at this as risk and reward. Actually, we look at a lot of that at the PTI farm. But the nice thing about this is it's pretty affordable to put on a planter, but the bad thing is this is pretty risky. This can cost you a lot of nitrogen loss. The last tool we're looking at, we brought in the 360 Bandit. This is another dual band application. We'll get this video going. Here you can see the disc. You can see the one side, you can't see the other, but they're both there. And then we've got a line that brings that 32% UAE in on the back side of that little disc there. So those are the attachments that we're looking at. Now, I've been farming for a little over 30 years, and when I look at my corn planter at home, if I'm going to put a new tool on it, the first thing I'm going to ask myself is, what is this stuff going to cost? Is that a legitimate question? I think it is, right? So I've been using Conceal the past 5 years. Things work pretty good. I've got a 16-row planter, by the way. If I buy Conceal, it's going to cost about $1,000 a row times my 16 rows on my planter. I know my build cost is going to be about $16,000. Now, what about the others? A dribble. Okay, pretty easy, pretty affordable to put on a planter. I actually researched it. On average, about $100 a row to put on a planter. And I said, you know what? For today's presentation, I'm going to say y'all have enough parts laying around in your shop to cut that cost in half, and it'd cost $50 a row to put a dribble system on your planter. $50 a row times 16, okay? I got an $800 build cost. You may look at that and say, ooh, I kind of like that, $800 compared to $16,000. I think I might be interested in that one. Well, hold on a second, hold on. The 360 Bandits are $335 a row times 16. I got $5,400 wrapped up in this thing. And the John Deere single disc 2x2, the most expensive one I have, that's about $3,200 a row times 16. That's over a $51,000 investment to put that system on my 16-row planter. That's my build cost, okay? And what about performance? Now, we tested these units compared to Conceal. Here's where we ended up. Let's talk about surface application, dribble and nitrogen on top of the ground. It ended up costing me about $40 an acre, which is actually pretty good. We've seen it much higher in the past, but that one didn't do so well, about a $40 loss. The 360 Bandits come in at a $24 loss, and the John Deere 2x2 single disc actually did the best, but it still lost about $7 an acre. So now I've got performance here of how these units are working in the field. Because when I buy something to put on my planter, I'm probably going to use it for maybe 3 years before I figure out to get enough data in to say, you know what, I either like this or I don't. So I started doing some math, okay? Kind of an ROI calculator. And I said, well, I know my investment is $16,000 for my 16-row planter putting conceal on. That dribble, if you remember right, I priced it at $50 a row, pretty cheap. You guys said you liked that $800 cost we had, right? Pretty attractive. But if I'm planting 1,000 acres of corn a year over 3 years, and I'm losing, you remember what it lost per acre? About 40 bucks an acre, right? And so if I take that 40 bucks and the same thing happens over the next 2 years, do you know that dribble system actually ended up costing me almost $7,200 a row to put on my planter? If you would have showed me a dual dribble system for a planter and said, Jason, that thing's going to cost $7,200 a row, you interested? I would have said, no, thank you. Let's keep going. The 360 Bandits came in at about $5,000 a row. Okay, again, that's a 5x cost over the conceal at 1,000. And then the John Deere 2x2, which was the most expensive to begin with, it was $7 an acre behind. It ended up costing me in the total end, in this 3-year scenario, about $4,500 a row of my planter. So a little bit of buyer's remorse, I guess. And here's the thing. When I buy something, and I know in today's economy, I have to be careful what I'm buying and how I'm spending my money. But once I do spend my money, I want it to make me money. I don't want it to lose me money. And that's kind of what we're seeing in some of these cases here. All right, let's totally change gears. Get away from nutrition, and let's just talk a little bit of tillage. Some of our trials at the farm, we're evaluating yield and economics of 4 different tillage systems. I don't know what tillage system you're using at home, but the big 4 in my mind are conventional tillage, vertical tillage, strip till, and no-till. And you may have a different deviation of this on your home farm, but I think these are the big ones out here. And we're evaluating these in the same spots of the farm every single year. Let's go to a little video. We'll show you some of the tillages that we're doing. This is the conventional tillage. This is where they say make her black, right? Go in, lift and fracture, and go in and take care of that residue. And we're going to do that major tillage. We're going to compare this major tillage to then reducing tillage, okay? So we go from making her black like that to strip till. And I'll tell you, we've done a lot of strip till at the PTI farm, and I really like it. It's not conventional tillage, but yet it's not no-till, okay? So it's kind of a compromise. Now, the real advantage with this, in my mind, is the ability to ban nutrients, put fertilizer in those bands. Don't broadcast it. We'll talk more about this in a minute. I'll tell you, for these tillage trials, though, there's no fertilizer differences here. There's no banding here. It's all treated the same way, okay, because that would be unfair to the other tillage programs. So this is no fertilizer, just looking at tillage. I'll tell you, though, some of these strips that we made this fall were absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. That gets me excited about 2023 and putting corn and soybeans into that strip. Look how wide that thing is. Planter's going to glide right through that. Think about some of the fertility that I could have in that thing. We're off to a pretty good start. We had a good fall. We made some really gorgeous strips out in the field. This picture was taken on Thanksgiving morning. We had a turkey in the oven. We had family coming over, and I said, hold on a second while the thing's cooking. I got to go make some strips. We went out there, and they were the most gorgeous strips you've ever seen. This isn't corn stalks. This is going to be soybeans. We're doing it for corn and soybeans both. But I'm just really impressed. You see that strip till rig we're using? We got the Montag cart back there where we can put fertilizer on if we want to, and it just worked out really well this year. Okay, so we got conventional tillage, we've got strip till. Let's keep reducing our tillage. One of the biggest trends or fads in the industry is vertical tillage. We're doing that. That's a totally different environment, right? And we're trying to learn how to manage this and do this thing right compared to some of the heavier tillages. And then lastly, the ultimate is no-till. Don't do any tillage at all. Let's just go in and plant right into this and manage it that way. I will tell you, I grew up on a conventional tillage farm. Dad and Grandpa taught me how to do tillage. When I tried to do no-till, the hardest part about it was closing the trench, closing the slot on the back side. There's some planter tools on the market right now, specifically with furrow force, that allows me to do that a little bit better, but that makes this thing a lot easier. But no-till I've kind of struggled with. Matter of fact, look at my numbers. Look at the 5-year data, looking at different tillage programs at the PTI farm. Look at this. Strip till is the green bar. It's actually made me the most money. That's one of the reasons we like it as well. But look at the other programs. Vertical till is about $33 behind. No-till is about $30 behind. And conventional tillage of almost 16. And some folks have looked at me and said, well, Jason, you must not be a very good no-tiller. And I don't think I am. I'm trying. But the PTI farm is a farm that was conventional tillage for, as far as I know, about 50 years. And I walk in and I say, okay, I'm not going to do conventional tillage on that anymore. I'm going to put it into no-till. Will it work right away? That was one of our questions. How long will it take to get a no-till system to work? Right now, it hasn't been working over the past 5 years for me. It's actually losing. Last week, I had the opportunity to go down to St. Louis, Missouri. I found out that no-till conference was going on. I said, I'm going to go talk to these no-till guys. This no-till conference, I guess, there's these no-tillers from around the world that come to these annual conferences. They've done it for 31 years now. They all get together and talk about their successes and failures with no-till. And I said, I'm going to go to this no-till conference because I'm obviously having some failures with no-till. So I drive down to St. Louis and I go to this conference. I walk in and there's this big room of all these no-tillers. And instantly, I felt guilty for being there. I felt guilty. I do too much tillage, and here I am going to a no-till conference. But I wanted to go to this conference because I wanted to talk to these guys. They're the best in the world. They've been doing no-till for a long time, and I wanted to ask them questions like, how long does it take when you take ground out of conventional tillage and put it into no-till? How long will it take to get the system to work? It was one thing to sit in a big room like this and listen to speakers, but then they got us into these little rooms and it's face-to-face conversations, ag forums. I really felt guilty about being in these rooms this close to these guys because they've been doing no-till for a long time. See, here's the thing. In 2022, something happened. In our 5th year of testing no-till, it changed. And I don't know if it's a one-year thing or not. That's one of the things we're going to try to find out. But look, here's yield from 2022, this past fall. Strip till was still my yield winner, but not by very much. You compare it yield-wise to the rest of the tillage programs. I even threw inline ripping just for fun, just for an extra data point in here. But look, conventional tillage is about 4.5 bushel behind. I think that's from the hot, dry June we had. But the other tillage programs, look at that, 1.2 bushel. Look at no-till, 2 bushel behind. Now, every tillage program has a cost, a system cost. If you're doing less tillage, you're going to have to introduce more burn down. So you'll have more chem costs. If you're doing more tillage, you've got more fuel, more wear and tear, more tractor time, things like that. And when you put the system cost to these tillage programs here in 2022, look what happens. No-till has won for the first time. Why? That's some of the things that we're trying to learn at the PTI farm, and it's interesting seeing all this happen. Again, this may be a one-year thing. I don't know. But you better believe we're going to be watching this in the years ahead, trying to understand this, and would welcome you guys to come out to the farm and see it with us. Let's talk a little bit about fertilizer reallocation. I mentioned I do like the strip till, and I love the idea of putting fertilizer in the strip. And some folks say, well, Jason, what do you mean by fertilizer reallocation? How do you guys know how much fertilizer to put on your farm? How do you know? Well, you go out and soil test, right? You pull soil samples, you take it to a lab, and you get the lab results in, and all you folks have a guy or a gal, a trusted advisor that says, okay, give me a yield goal. What kind of corn or beans you want to grow? You tell them, and they'll say, you need this much fertilizer. And then you can go apply it. Well, how are you going to apply it? Well, I call this plow down, okay? That's what Dad and Grandpa used to call it. You could broadcast this fertilizer. In my case, I'm going to strip till it, and I'm going to band it, okay? But I'm also going to put fertilizer on in the spring, okay? It's a split application. I'm going to plant. You see my planter there on the right of the screen. It's got tanks and pumps on it. I'm going to put more fertilizer on, starter fertilizer, some of that phosphorus that we talked about earlier. So get this. I can't in the fall go with my plow down with all of the fertilizer from my trusted advisor. You know, they told me how much fertilizer to put on. I can't put it all on right there because I'm going to put more on in the spring with the planter. If I do that, 2 things are going to happen. I'm going to apply too much fertilizer, and I'm going to spend too many dollars. Those are 2 things I don't want to do in today's economy, okay? So here's what we do, real simple. I look at that planter up here on the screen, and I say, you know what? That starter fertilizer program's going to cost me 30 bucks. A good starter fertilizer program I can get for $30. So when I go to my fall fertilizer, whether you're broadcasting or whether you're strip tilling and banding, it doesn't really matter to me. we reduce that fertilizer application by $30. I just take it down by 30 because I know I'm going to put more fertilizer on, the rest of the fertilizer on my planter. I'm just trading the dollars. Yes, I should trade the nutrients pound for pound, I know, but I just kind of keep it simple so everybody can figure this thing out. Now, when I do this, let's say I get in that, I put my plow down on, I reduce my rate by $30. In the spring, I get in that tractor and planter and I'm planting away and I got the heater on in that tractor. It's cold. That starter fertilizer, I need that. That's going to be worth a lot of money to me. But let's look conversely here. Let's just say that it's really warm out. Let's say it's 90 degrees, and that corn I'm planting, it's going to come up out of the ground in, say, 4 or 5 days. Does it need a starter fertilizer? Maybe not, but did it cost me anything? No, it didn't cost me a dime. I'm reallocating my dollars. I'm still spending the same amount from my fertilizer recommendation from in the fall, but I'm just reducing by the $30. So that starter on the planter is free in my mind. It's free insurance. It's me taking control, taking the risk out of it. If it's cold and wet and I need that starter fertilizer there, it's going to pay, and I'll take the money and I'll run. Okay? But if it's a year where I really don't need the starter, it's not going to pay off. It didn't cost me a dime. Now, while we're doing these strips and this fertilizer application in the fall, some growers have come to me and said, Jason, have you seen the cost of fertilizer here lately? I said, yep, I've seen it. And they said, you're banding. You're strip tilling and you're putting fertilizer in these bands. Do you think because of the high cost of fertilizer, we could put less fertilizer on since you're putting it in a band versus broadcast? Is that a legitimate question? That's a very good question. So that's some of the work that we're doing. We're looking at band versus broadcast, and we're looking at different rates. So again, we'll take that soil test recommendation that you need this much phosphorus and potassium, and we put it on. We put it on at 100% rates in a broadcast, and then we band it with our strip till, right? And then I say, you know what? I'm just going to take your recommendation, that 100% rate. I'm going to back it down by 25% all the way down to 0. So I've got 100% rates, 75% rates, 50% rates, 25% rates, and then I'm going to shut the gate off and I'm going to put 0 on. And we're going to do this for 10 years. This is designed as a 10-year study because you all know with the high price of fertilizer right now, you guys can say, you know what? I'm just going to take the year off putting fertilizer on. Will it bring yield down? I don't know. It depends on the bank you have on your soils. But we might be able to get by for a year. But what if we do it for 10 years straight? That's some of the things we want to look at. But I want to look at the difference between broadcast and band. Here's our 3-year data, band versus broadcast. Again, this is with our strip till rig. Banding is beating the broadcast at 100% rates of fertilizer by 9.9 bushel per acre. What does that actually mean? Let's look at the ROI on this. And this is about a $33 win rate, and this has got a higher cost of putting the banding on because of the strip till. It's much more expensive doing that than just calling your ag retailer and say, you know, sling it on or broadcast application. So we're about $32, $33 ahead by banding. That's 3-year data, 2020, 2021, and 2022. But let's look at the efficiency of it. Let's go back to 2021, kind of go back in time here a little bit. This was year 1 of our 10-year study. To interpret this graph, I'm going to show you 100% rates all the way down to 0, but we're going to start on the left-hand side of the screen looking at the first 2 blue bars. The first one is my banded application at 100% rates. The one to the right of it is my broadcast. And you'll see the band beat the broadcast. That's at 100% rates. I said, all right, let's slash that application rate by 25%. Let's go to a 75% rate. Look at that. The band beat the broadcast again. Huh, interesting. Let's go to cutting it in half. I'm going to put half the fertilizer on. My trusted advisor told me I needed to do. The band beat the broadcast again. Same thing happened at 25%. I was 4 for 4, banding beat broadcast every single time. This tells the whole story. The orange bar on the orange graph on the screen represents my trusted advisor's fertilizer recommendation as a broadcast application. That's my 100% rate. I said, okay, I'm going to bring my strip till rig in. I'm going to ban the fertilizer now, and I'm not putting on 100%. Let's just go a 75% rate or a 25% reduction. And when I did that, I made $49.79 an acre. Huh, why? Oh, wait a minute. I reduced even more. I went down to 50% rates of fertilizer, and I actually made $52. It got better. Where I got into trouble, I reduced too much fertilizer. I reduced 75%. I'm only putting 25% of the fertilizer, supposedly, that I needed. I lost about 10 bucks an acre, and where I put 0 pounds of fertilizer on, I lost about $42 an acre. That was back in 2021. Fertilizer prices were a little different back then. Let's look at this past year in 2022. We're doing the same thing. It's a 10-year study, so we do this thing every year, right? Let's go to the 100% band versus broadcast. Band beat broadcast again. It happened again at 75% rates, happened again at 50% rates. I lost one time. Band got beat by broadcast at the 25% rate. But that's a three, I'm going 3 for 4 right here. That'll put you in the Hall of Fame in baseball. Band's got a pretty good track record here. Again, you look at what normally is a bell curve graph for me. Look at this again. The orange bar is that 100% broadcast rate of fertilizer, right? Broadcast. I reduce it by 25%. I'm making about $8 an acre. I cut it in half. I'm making $18 an acre. And it just keeps going. 25% rates of fertilizer. I'm making 30 bucks an acre. And do you believe this? This year in 2022, my economic optimum rate of dry fertilizer was 0. I put 0 pounds of fertilizer on, and I made an extra $37 an acre compared to buying 100% of my rate of fertilizer and broadcasting it. What does this mean? Let's go to soybeans, because we're doing it for soybeans as well. This is 2022 data. The band beat the broadcast at every single rate. I went 4 for 4. And then bell curve. You got a bell curve going on. Look at this. There's my orange bar, 100% rate of fertilizer, but it's broadcasted. I go into bands. I go 25% reduction. I make $13. My best money came at a 50% rate of fertilizer. This is on beans again, right? This is beans. Half rate of fertilizer made me the most money. But I still think it's interesting. 0 pounds of fertilizer for these beans. 0. Putting 0 pounds of fertilizer on made me about $14 more than buying 100% rate of fertilizer and broadcasting it or slinging it. What's happening here? What is going on? How come I'm not getting a big bang for my buck? Well, in other words, how come I put 0 pounds of fertilizer on and I'm making more money on a per acre basis? That's my question. Anybody seen the cost of DAP and potash here lately? Historical high prices. I looked up. I said, well, what have I been paying for DAP and potash? Here you see the graph from December 2020 all the way to December 2022, just a constant raise in prices. You guys have seen this because you've had to buy it. You can see my prices in the lower left-hand corner. In fall of 2020, I was paying $6.50 for DAP, $4.15 for potash, and look at how they've increased every single year. That's why my fertilizer's not paying off. I'm not getting the yield response to offset the higher cost of this fertilizer, at least compared to broadcast inefficient applications of fertilizer. So what am I doing? I'm looking at the high cost of fertilizer and saying, you know what? Let's reduce it, but let's band it, put high concentrated bands on, and I'm actually winning. I'm doing better. Now, I thought, let's really look at ROI here, and just for old times, let's go back a few years. Let's take this fertilizer cost, this high fertilizer cost, and cut it in half. We're going to have a blue light special for the day on fertilizer, and it's going to be half price. And I said, let's rerun the numbers, and let's do it on the soybeans, because that was the data we just talked about. Here's my 100% rate of fertilizer broadcast in the orange. I reduced 25%. I'm only making $7.50 now. I cut to half, I'm making 10 bucks an acre. These are much lower numbers. And then look what happens. I get my bell curve back, 25% rates are costing me money. Even zero pounds of fertilizer. What this means is this dry fertilizer is too expensive. I'm not getting the yield response out of it. So what do I have to do? I've got to farm smarter. I'm going to put it in bands. I'm going to put it in high concentrated strips. I'm going to put fertilizer only where the root's going to be. And I'm going to take advantage of it. And it's been paying for us at the PTI farm. All right, that's a lot of data in a short amount of time. What did we talk about? 4 topics. I mentioned to you earlier, this year I think we published 141 agronomy trials, and we only talked about 4 of them today. How do you get more data? It's the most popular question I get from growers. I'm going to show you how you can stay connected, how you can get more data, just like we just talked about. Number 1, I'd love for you to be a subscriber to Inside PTI. Inside PTI is where we take the trial results from the PTI farm, just like we did today, and we send it to your email inbox. It's a free email. We'll send it your way. All you got to do is sign up. Go to Inside PTI. It's totally free. You just got to put your first name in and give us an email address so we know where to send these videos, and we'll send them your way. But these are just us out in the field, okay, showing you what we're trying to work on, what the objective of the trials are, what we've learned. And we even have some question answers. We'll let you guys send some questions in, and we'll try to answer them on the air as well. So again, that's InsidePTI.com. Totally free. Just got to go to the website and sign up. We'd love to have you. Our research book. Our research book is right here. We finally got this thing done last week, and we sent it out to all of our premier dealers. Our book here is, our research summary is, I think it's 260-some pages. It's got the 141 agronomy trials in it. And ended up being 88 corn trials and 53 soybean trials, all from PTI. How do you get this? You contact your local Precision Planting Premier dealer. They are the folks that house this information. If you'd like to get some of this or all of it as a paper copy or electronic copy, go to your local Precision Planting Premier dealer, and they'd love to help you with it. Lastly, I'd love for you to come to the farm. Everybody at Precision Planting, on behalf of the whole team, would love for you to come to the PTI farm, and let's continue this conversation about what we've had today at Winter Conference. Okay, again, how do you sign up for that? Go to your local Precision Planting Premier dealer, tell them you want to come to the farm, and I'm sure they'd love to bring you out. Now, this summer, got some different things going on at the farm. We have industry events from time to time at the farm, and we're going to kind of have a different industry event this year. Remember how I talked a little bit about strip till? I also mentioned that I went to no-till conference. The same guys that put on no-till conference do this thing called strip till conference. And I thought, wouldn't it be kind of neat if we brought the strip till conference to the PTI farm? And on August 2nd this summer, we're going to have the pre-conference strip till conference meeting at the PTI farm. We're going to bring a bunch of strip till equipment in. We're going to talk about how we're applying fertilizer through our precision planting equipment and technology on strip till rigs. We're going to have a lot of fun. But if you're interested in this, we'd love to have you out. The conference is actually the 3rd and 4th of August. Our pre-conference session will be August 2nd. But if you want more information on this, you can go to striptillconference.com and get more information and sign up. Lastly, starting next week, we are going on tour. I love talking about agronomy, sharing some of the results, and so we're just going to go on the road, and we call this the PTI Farm Winter Tour. We did it a year ago, tried it out, thought it worked pretty well. We're going to do it again. This tour, we're just going to get in the truck. We're going to drive around for 7 weeks. We're going to go to 21 locations, and we're going to talk about some of the over 140 trial results that we learned this year. We're going to talk about the 10 things that made me the most money from the PTI farm. And then we're going to talk about the things that cost me the most money. This is my top 10 and bottom 10 list right here. It's what's listed in our 2022 research summary, and it's what we're going to talk about, concentrate on as we travel around on the PTI Winter Farm Tour. Here's where we're going. Next week, we're going to the East Coast. We're going to go to Clinton, North Carolina, and Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So if you're growers out in those immediate areas, we'd love to have you come to these. And I'm going to warn you a little bit. These meetings, they're 4 hours long. they're detailed. They're really intense meetings, but they're a lot of fun too. A lot of information. It's crowd participation. We get you guys involved, ask you questions, make you a part of the meeting. It's going to be a lot of fun. But first week, North Carolina and Pennsylvania. Week number 2, we're going to go to Indiana, up to Fort Wayne, and then on our way back, we're going to have our first event at the PTI farm on February 3rd. It'll be one of 2 meetings that we have at the PTI farm. That's week 2. Week 3, we're going to go to North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa, February 7th through the February 9th. Okay? They say it's warm and balmy in Fargo, North Dakota in February. I guess we're going to find out. You ever been to the National Farm Machinery Show? You guys ever been to Louisville, Kentucky, and gone to that show? There's a few farmers that go to that, and we say, you know what, everybody's all under this one roof anyway. Let's put a winter tour location there. And so on Friday, February 16th, we will be in Louisville at the National Farm Machinery Show. And if you're going, we'd love to see you and talk a little bit more agronomy. Week number 5, we're going up north to Wisconsin. Okay, and on our way back, we'll finish that week on February 24th and at our second and final event at the PTI farm in Pontiac. But week number 5 is Wisconsin. Week number 6, we're almost done. Week number 6, we're going out to Nebraska, Scottsbluff, York, North Kansas City, Missouri, and on our way back home, we're going to stop in at the FFA Enrichment Center in Ankeny, Iowa, talk to some growers out there in Iowa. That's week number 6. And lastly, week number 7, we're going to do a joint meeting. We're going to go way up north We're going to have a joint meeting with our Canadian friends and the folks up in Michigan. We're going to be in Kimball, Michigan on March 7th. We're going to talk agronomy up there. And then our very last meeting will be on March 8th in Toledo, Ohio. Why am I telling you about all these locations? Because I'm hoping one of these locations is close to you and you'll come and talk some agronomy, and we can figure out how we can maybe get some insights to take home some information for your farm. All right, so to register for these events, you can go to precisionplanting.com/events. All the locations will be there. Please register for it. We'd love to see you right there. And that's the PTI Farm Winter Tour 2023. Let's continue the conversation. Everything you've learned today at Winter Conference, panorama, some of the spray technology, okay? Let's come to the PTI Farm this summer again. You have a personal invitation to come to the farm. On behalf of everybody here at Precision Planting, we'd love to see you at the farm. Talk to your local Precision Planting Premier dealer. They'll bring you out to the farm and we'll have a lot of fun. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to turn the stage over to Taryn Johnson. She's going to close the event. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here at Winter Conference. Thanks.
Thanks, Jason. On behalf of the entire Precision Planting team, thank you for joining us at Winter Conference 2023. Throughout the sessions today, you might have heard us say, we believe in better. We not only imply that here in our everyday work as employees or as a company as a whole, but we believe that for you as farmers. For the past 30 years, we have challenged the status quo, have believed in better ways, and have provided you tools to optimize every pass in your field. We plan to do that for many more years to come. Hopefully throughout the day today, you learned something in a session or heard something new that you want to implement on your own operation. But beyond the tool of knowledge shared with you today, there are 2 more tools we'd like to send with you before you go. The first is a tool called Furrow Finder. This tool was actually developed and designed here by our team at Precision Planting, and we believe that this is the best tool to analyze your furrow and find the seed. We want to give you each one as you leave today, so be sure to pick one up on your way out the door, along with some product information we have for you as well. The second tool we want to provide you with is the ability to download the Precision Planting Panorama app. This app gives you an unobstructed view of your 2020 data, no matter where you are or where you want to look at it. Now is your chance to experience it for yourself. If you scan the QR code on the screen, it'll take you to the App Store, whether it be Google Play or Apple Store, and you can download it onto your own device. We have a few test fields uploaded, but at this time you can't upload your own data, but we hope this gives you a glimpse as to what is to come in the future. Thank you again for joining us. We have enjoyed hosting you. Our challenge to you in 2023 is to always believe in better. Thanks so much, and have a safe trip home.